Let me tell you exactly what happened. Because it's good. Somebody out there underestimated you. They looked at you, they made a calculation, they filed you away under a certain label: easy, predictable, harmless. Someone I can take for granted. Someone who'll always be there, no matter how I act, and they got comfortable. They got real comfortable. They built their entire approach to you around that label. And then something happened. You shifted. You changed. You stopped doing the thing they counted on you to do. And the label cracked right down the middle. And now they are looking at you with a brand new expression on their face. It's the expression of someone who just realized they've been reading the wrong book this whole time. It's the expression of someone whose entire strategy just stopped working. And I'm going to be blunt, because the title already was the expression of someone who is quietly behind closed doors, absolutely terrified. Hey, it's Elena. Welcome back to Elena Tarot. And I'll be honest with you, I am a little excited about this one. Because there's a particular kind of satisfaction in a reading like this. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. This isn't a soft one. This isn't a gentle one. This is a reading about your power and about a person who is only now figuring out that they wildly miscalculated who they were dealing with. But okay, before we get into it, let me actually tell you about my day, because it kind of ties into the whole energy of this reading, and I think you'll get a laugh out of it. So today was long, like one of those days where you blink and suddenly it's evening and you have no idea where the hours went. I had 100 little things stacked up: errands, messages I kept meaning to answer, that one task I've been putting off for embarrassingly long, and I genuinely thought, there's no way I'm filming today. There's just not enough hours in this day. I almost pushed it to tomorrow. I really did. And I want you to know that. Because people sometimes assume these readings just fall out of the sky, like I sit down for 10 minutes and poof, video, done. It's really not like that. Behind every one of these, there's me carving out a quiet little pocket in a chaotic day, clearing the table, shutting everything off, sitting with the deck until the energy settles enough to hear it clearly. Some nights I shuffle for a while and feel nothing, just static, and I have to wait and breathe and let it come on its own schedule instead of mine. So when I show up here, it's never careless. You're trusting me with your heart. And I don't hold that lightly, even on the days I'm running on fumes. Especially those days, honestly so. Anyway, there I was, completely ready to throw in the towel and go to bed. And then I sat down with the cards, just for a second. The way you tell yourself you'll check your phone for just a second, yeah? You know exactly how that goes. And the energy that came up was so loud, so specific, so honestly kind of fierce, that I went, okay, no. This one needs to come out tonight. It practically grabbed me by the collar. Somebody watching this needed it today. Not tomorrow, not next week. So I made the tea. I pushed everything else aside. I told the to-do list it could wait. And here we are. Tired, a little wired, but here. Because this one was worth staying up for. So before we start, I need one thing from you. Drop the small version of yourself at the door. The shrunken one. The one who wonders if she's too much, or not enough, or imagining things. Leave her outside, because this reading is for the real you, the one this person just caught a glimpse of. The one that scared the daylights out of them. That's who I'm talking to tonight. Let's go. And actually, before I shuffle, one more thing, because I think a lot of you need it framed right. There's a version of this reading that's just petty, haha. They're scared, you win. And sure, there's a little of that flavor, I won't lie. But that's not really what this is about. The real story isn't that someone got scared. It's that you stopped making yourself small enough to be unthreatening. For a long time, you probably contorted into a more manageable shape, quieter, more accommodating, because somewhere you learned that taking up your full space made people uncomfortable. So you shrank, and it worked in a sad way. People got comfortable, and you got overlooked. What changed isn't that you got mean or vengeful. It's that you decided being unthreatening was costing too much, and you stopped paying that price. The fear they're feeling is just the sound of someone realizing the person they overlooked was never small, she was just being polite about her power. Okay, now let's go. Let me shuffle. We're going straight into their head, into the exact moment the penny dropped, and they realized you were never who they assumed. The assumption that just shattered first card down. And I want to start with what they used to think. Because you can't understand the panic until you understand the assumption that's panicking. The card is the Page of Cups, reversed, and here's what it's showing me about the story they told themselves about you. They thought you were sweet. And I mean that in the most condescending way possible, because that's how they meant it. They looked at your kindness, your patience, your warmth, your willingness to give people the benefit of the doubt, and they misread all of it as weakness. They decided that because you're soft, you're a pushover. That because you're patient, you're endlessly tolerant. That because you're kind, you'll absorb whatever they hand you and keep smiling. They mistook your gentleness for a lack of boundaries. They mistook your good heart for a doormat. The reversed Page of Cups is the card of someone who fundamentally misjudged an emotional situation, who read the room wrong. And this person read you wrong, top to bottom. They built a whole relationship with a version of you that only existed in their assumptions. A version that would never push back, never walk away, never reach a limit, never surprise them. A safe, predictable, manageable version they could relax around because they were sure they had you figured out. And here's the thing about people who underestimate you. Sweet, they get lazy. That's the part they always forget. When someone decides they've got you in the bag, they stop trying. They stop showing up. They let their worst self out because they think there's no consequence. They take and take because they're certain the supply is infinite. They get sloppy, comfortable, complacent, and complacency is exactly the condition under which people reveal who they really are, and exactly the condition under which they get blindsided when the person they took for granted turns out to have a spine made of steel. That's the assumption that just shattered. The she's sweet, she's harmless, she'll always be here assumption. It hit the floor. And they're standing in the pieces of it right now, wondering how they got it so wrong. And to the women bristling a little, thinking, so what, I should have been colder? Hear me clearly. The problem was never your kindness, your soft heart, your patience, your willingness to see the best in people. Those are gifts. And I'd never tell you to trade them for a hard shell. The problem was that you handed those gifts to someone who treated them like they were worthless. A diamond is still a diamond, even in careless hands. So this reading isn't telling you to stop being kind. It's telling you to get more selective about who gets access to your kindness. You're not going to become cold. You're going to become discerning, which is just soft with a backbone. Comment they underestimated me if you can feel that someone in your life looked at your kindness and mistook it for something they could walk all over. Because they did. And they're about to find out how badly they miscalculated. Next card. The exact moment it clicked okay. Second card. And this one shows me the moment. The specific turning point. Because there's always a moment, isn't there? A line that gets crossed. A final straw. A switch that flips. The card is the Tower. And the Tower is the moment everything they assumed came crashing down at once. Here's what I'm seeing. Something shifted in you, and it might have been quiet. It might not have even looked dramatic from the outside. But there was a moment where you stopped performing the role they cast you in, where you stopped over-explaining yourself, stopped chasing, stopped bending, stopped making yourself smaller to keep the peace. Maybe you went quiet on them. Maybe you said no and meant it for once. Maybe you just stopped reacting the way you always used to stop jumping when they pulled the string. Stopped lighting up when they finally threw you a crumb of attention. And whatever that shift was, it landed on them like a lightning strike. Because the Tower isn't a slow dawning. It's not, she seems a little different lately. The Tower is instant. It's the moment the whole structure they built the comfortable assumption. The relaxed certainty that they had you handled collapses in a single second. One moment, they thought they knew exactly who you were and exactly what to expect from you. The next moment, they're staring at a stranger who looks like you, but doesn't act like the you they'd grown lazy around. And it genuinely rattled them. And I want you to understand why it rattled them so badly. Because it's deliciously simple. People who underestimate others are not actually as confident as they look. The whole reason they need to put you in a box is that the box makes them feel safe. It makes them feel in control. As long as they know exactly who you are and exactly what you'll do, they never have to feel uncertain around you. So when you broke out of the box, when you proved you were not the predictable, manageable person they'd filed you, as you didn't just surprise them. You took away their sense of control. You introduced uncertainty into a dynamic they thought was completely locked down. And for a person who relies on having the upper hand, uncertainty is terrifying. That's the tower. That's the crash. That's the exact moment they realized they had no idea who they were actually dealing with. And here's a detail about the tower that makes this even more satisfying. The tower only knocks down structures built on a lie false foundations that were never going to stand anyway. So the fact that it showed up here tells me the version of this dynamic they were comfortable in was never real. It was built on a false premise that you were less than you are. When it crashed, it wasn't a tragedy. It was a correction, the universe clearing away something fake to make room for something true. They're mourning the collapse of a comfortable illusion. You should be celebrating it, because that illusion was a cage with your name on it, and the tower just blew the door off. Next card, what they're telling themselves right now, okay? Third card, and now we get to crawl inside their head and hear the panicked little monologue that's running on a loop. The card is the Seven of Cups, and the Seven of Cups is the card of a mind spinning out too many thoughts, too many scenarios, a fog of confusion and second guessing. And that is exactly the state this person is in right now. Their head is a mess. They are running scenario after scenario, trying to figure out what changed, trying to figure out if they can fix it, trying to figure out if they still have the influence over you they thought they had. And the scariest thought of all, the one they keep circling back to, is, what if I can't get the old version of her back? What if the person they could take for granted is just gone? What if you've genuinely leveled up out of their reach? Let me narrate the spiral for you, because I think you'll recognize it. First, there's denial. No, she's just upset. She'll come around. She always does. Then there's the testing. Let me throw out a little bait and see if she bites like she used to. And then there's the dawning horror when the bait doesn't work. Wait, she's not reacting. She's not chasing. She's not folding. Oh no. And then comes the part that really gets them, the replaying. They start going back through every interaction, rereading everything in this new light, realizing that the signs were there all along and they were too arrogant to see them. Realizing they had something genuinely valuable and they treated it like it was disposable because they were positive it would always be available. The Seven of Cups also carries this energy of someone finally seeing clearly after a long stretch of illusion. So part of what's happening in their head is the fog lifting on who you actually are. And what they're seeing as the fog clears is honestly intimidating to them. Because the real you, the unfiltered you, the you that doesn't shrink and doesn't chase and doesn't beg, is a genuinely formidable person. They built their comfort on a cartoon version of you. And now the real one just walked into the room. And the real one does not need them the way they assumed she did. That realization is rearranging their entire understanding of the dynamic. And it's scaring them, because in their version of the story, they were always the one with the power. Turns out, they were wrong about that too. And let me name the most uncomfortable thought in their whole spiral, the one doing the most damage. Underneath the denial and the testing, there's a quiet, horrible question they can't stop asking. Did I throw away something I can't get back? Because realizing you underestimated someone doesn't just change how you see them, it forces you to confront how you behaved. When they replay how they treated you in this new clear light, They're not just seeing a stronger version of you. They're seeing a worse version of themselves every careless, dismissive, lazy moment, every time they could have shown up and didn't, because they were sure they didn't have to. They had something good, and they are the reason it slipped. That's not a comfortable place to sit, and it's entirely of their own making. Comment the fog is lifting if you can feel this person finally starting to see you clearly, after a long time of seeing only what they wanted to see, because that clarity is hitting them hard. Next card. Why you scare them specifically, okay? Fourth card. And this one is about you, about the specific quality in you that this person finds genuinely intimidating now that they can actually see it. The card is the Queen of Swords. And oh, this is such a powerful card to pull here. Because the Queen of Swords is everything they didn't think you were. The Queen of Swords is sharp. She's clear-eyed. She sees through nonsense. She's been through enough to know exactly what she will and won't tolerate, and she does not waste her time trying to convince people of her worth. She just removes herself from people who don't see it. She's warm, but she's not naive. She'll give you a chance, but she will not give you endless chances. And the most threatening thing about her, from the perspective of someone who tried to take advantage of her, she can't be manipulated anymore. The tricks don't work. The guilt trips don't land. The mixed signals don't keep her hooked. She sees the game, names it silently to herself, and steps off the board. That's who they just realized you are. And here's why it specifically terrifies this person. Their entire approach to you was built on the assumption that you couldn't see what they were doing, that you'd keep falling for it, that your kindness made you a little bit gullible, a little bit easy to handle. And the Queen of Swords reveals that you see everything. You always did. You may have allowed certain things for a while, out of patience, out of hope, out of love, out of giving someone the benefit of the doubt longer than they deserved. But allowing something and not noticing it are two completely different things. You noticed. You noticed all of it. And now that you've stopped allowing it, they're realizing with horror that you were never fooled, you were just generous. And generosity has a limit. And they hit it. There is nothing more frightening to someone who relied on your blind spots than discovering you never actually had any, that you saw them clearly the whole time and simply chose patience until patience ran out. The Queen of Swords doesn't rage. She doesn't make scenes. She just quietly stops extending the grace she was extending, and the person on the other end suddenly feels the temperature drop and realizes, far too late, exactly how good they had it. That's where this person is, standing in the cold, realizing the warmth they took for granted was a choice you were making, and you've stopped choosing it for them. And here's the most empowering part of this whole reading, so take it in. Nobody is born this clear-eyed, this hard to fool. You get this way by going through things, by being hurt and paying attention, by trusting the wrong people and extracting the lesson instead of just the pain. Every sharp edge the Queen of Swords has was forged in something she survived. So when this person finds you intimidatingly clear now, what they're actually looking at is the evidence of everything you overcame. Your discernment is a trophy. And here's the final irony: people like this help create the very Queen of Swords, who eventually sees right through them. They sharpen the blade that ends up cutting them loose. Next card, the thing they're most afraid of losing, okay? Fifth card, and this one reveals what they're actually scared of losing, because the fear has a specific shape, and naming it tells you everything about what you really meant to them. The card is the Ten of Pentacles, and this one surprised me a little, because it goes deeper than I expected. The Ten of Pentacles is the card of long-term security, of legacy, of the life you build with someone over time, the stable, lasting, foundational kind of thing. And what it's telling me is that underneath all their casual taking you for granted, this person had quietly slotted you into their long-term picture. You weren't a passing thing to them, even if they treated you casually. In the background of their mind, without ever fully admitting it to themselves, they assumed you'd be part of their future, their security, their safe harbor. the stable thing they could always come home to, no matter how they behaved. And here's something almost fascinating about the mechanism. Because it sounds backwards, people often treat the person who matters most the worst. You'd think they'd be most careful with what matters most, but it's the opposite. When someone files you under permanent, under guaranteed, they stop spending effort on you. Because in their mind, effort is for things that might leave. They were careless with you because they were certain of you. It's a twisted compliment and a genuine failure at the same time. And now that certainty has evaporated suddenly, you might actually go, so all that effort they stopped spending comes flooding back. Watch it happen. It'll be almost mechanical. And that's what they're terrified of losing. Not just your attention in the moment, your permanence. They built their sense of long-term security partly on the assumption that you'd always be there. You were the safety net under their whole life, the thing they never had to worry about because they were so sure of it. And now that you've shown them you are not a guaranteed fixture, that you have the self-respect to actually leave, if you're not valued, they're staring at a future that suddenly has a hole in it where you used to be. A hole they assumed would never, ever open. This is the cruel irony for people who take others for granted. They often don't realize how foundational someone was until that someone shows signs of leaving. They built their house on you and never once thanked you for being the ground. And now, the ground is shifting, and they're feeling the whole structure of their assumed future wobble. And they're scared in the deep, disorienting way you only get scared when something you thought was permanent turns out to be something you have to actually earn. So if you've wondered whether you really mattered to this person, whether you were just convenient, here's your answer. You mattered enormously. You mattered so much they built their future around you in their head. They just made the fatal mistake of assuming that because you mattered that much, they didn't have to show it. And now they're learning in real time that mattering and being treated like you matter are two different things, and that you finally know the difference. And I want to gently challenge something some of you are feeling right now. Some of you just heard they built their future around you and felt your heart soften, felt that old pull to give them another chance. Because see, it was real. Slow down on that. Mattering to someone is not the same as being treated well, and it is not, by itself, a reason to accept poor treatment. Plenty of people deeply love the things they neglect. So don't let I matter to them talk you back into accepting less. You can fully believe you mattered and fully maintain that mattering wasn't enough, that you also needed to be valued. Consistently, in action. Let their feelings be real and let your standards stay exactly where it is. Both at once. That's the Queen of Swords way. Comment the foundation shifted if you can feel that you were way more foundational to this person than they ever let on, and they're only realizing it now that they're scared of losing you. Next card. How they're going to try to win you back. Okay. Sixth card. And this is the practical one. This is what they're going to do now that the panic has set in. Because a scared person doesn't just sit in the fear. They act. And I want you to see it coming so it doesn't catch you off guard. The card is the Knight of Wands. And here's the move. The Knight of Wands is sudden, passionate, dramatic action, someone charging in with energy and urgency. And what it's telling me is that this person is going to come back hot. After the realization, after the panic, they're going to make a move to recapture you. And it's likely to be sudden and intense. A burst of attention out of nowhere. A grand gesture. A flood of the effort they never bothered to make before. Suddenly, they're available. Suddenly, they're saying the things you always wanted them to say. Suddenly, they're acting like the person you always wished they'd be. And I want to prepare you for how disorienting this is going to feel. Because nobody warns you about it. When someone who withheld from you for a long time suddenly floods you with everything you were starving for, it doesn't just feel good, it feels destabilizing. Because part of you has been waiting for this exact moment, maybe for a long time. And now here it is, hitting every old hope at once, vindication and relief and longing all crashing together. In that flood, it's going to be really hard to think clearly. That's not a flaw in you, That's just what happens when a long-held hope suddenly looks like it's coming true. So I'm telling you now, while you're calm, when that flood comes, slow down. Don't make decisions in the rush of it. Feel it, you're human, but give it time. Let the heat cool just enough for your clear-eyed Queen of Swords to come back online. The flood is designed, consciously or not, to sweep you past your own judgment. Don't let it. Slow is your friend here. And I need you to hear me very clearly on this, because this is the most important practical thing in the whole reading. Be careful with that sudden heat. Because the Knight of Wands, while genuine in its intensity, has a serious problem it's not known for lasting. This is the energy of someone who can sprint but struggles to maintain a marathon. So when the grand gesture comes, when the flood of attention arrives, the question is not, are they being sincere right now in this moment? They probably are. The fear is real, the panic is real, and the desire to win you back is real. The question is this a permanent change or a temporary panic response? Is this who they're going to be from now on, or is this just who they become when they're scared of losing you, which will fade the moment they feel secure again? Because here's the trap, sweet, and I've watched too many powerful people fall into it. The person comes back hot, you melt, because finally they're giving you what you always wanted, you let them back in, and then, the moment they feel like they've recaptured you, the moment the fear of losing you subsides, they relax right back into taking you for granted. The heat was never about valuing you. It was about not wanting to lose you. And those are completely different things. Wanting to keep something and actually valuing it are not the same. And the Knight of Wands rush can disguise one as the other beautifully. So when this person comes charging back, and they will, I'm not telling you what to do, because that's your call and yours alone. But I am telling you what to watch for. Don't measure their words. Measure the consistency after the words. Anyone can sprint for a week when they're scared. The real question is whether they can still show up 6 months from now, when the fear has worn off and showing up isn't dramatic anymore, it's just required. That's the test. Not the grand gesture. The boring, consistent, unglamorous follow-through after the grand gesture. That's the only thing that tells you whether they actually changed or just got scared. And let me give you a specific thing to listen for when the comeback comes, because it'll tell you almost everything. Listen for whether they take accountability or whether they just turn up the charm. There's a massive difference. A person who got genuinely scared and genuinely grew will come back and actually own what they did. They'll name it. I took you for granted. I was careless with you. I didn't appreciate what I had. That's the sound of someone who looked in the mirror and didn't like what they saw and decided to change. But a person who's only in a panic, who just wants the comfortable old dynamic back without doing any of the actual work, will skip the accountability entirely and go straight to the charm offensive. Lots of compliments, lots of attention, lots of I miss you, lots of romance, and zero acknowledgement of why you pulled back in the first place. That's the tell. Charm without accountability is just the old manipulation in a prettier outfit. They're not trying to be better. They're trying to get you to forget. So when the heat comes, don't get swept up in how good it feels. Ask the quiet question underneath it. Are they owning what happened, or are they just trying to dazzle me past it? The answer to that question is worth more than every grand gesture combined. Next card. The power that shifted to you, okay? 7th card. And this one is pure confirmation of where the power in this dynamic now lives. The card is the Justice card. And justice is about the scales finally balancing, about things being weighed and landing where they truly belong. And where they're landing right now, sweet, is squarely on your side. For a long time in this dynamic, the scales were tipped. They had the power, or at least they thought they did. And you were the one doing the accommodating, the understanding, the giving, the waiting. The exchange was lopsided, and everybody knew it, even if nobody said it out loud. And justice is the card that comes in to correct an imbalance like that. It's the universe re-leveling the scales. And the way it's re-leveling them here is by handing the power back to you, not as a reward exactly, but as a simple matter of cause and effect. You changed. You stopped overgiving. You stopped accepting less than you deserved. And the natural consequence of that is that the balance of power shifted toward the person who's no longer desperate, toward the person who can walk away, toward you. Here's the thing about power in any connection, it almost always sits with the person who needs it less. For a long time, this person assumed you needed them, that you were more invested, more attached, more afraid of losing the connection. That assumption is what gave them the upper hand. And frankly, it's what made them so careless with you. But the scales have flipped. Now they're the one who's more afraid of losing the connection. Now they're the more invested one, scrambling, panicking, calculating how to keep you. And that means the power is yours. Justice handed it to you. You earned it by valuing yourself enough to stop accepting the imbalance. And I want you to be really intentional about how you hold this power. Because justice is also a card of fairness and integrity. And that matters. You did not become powerful here by becoming cruel. You didn't flip the dynamic through manipulation or games or revenge. You did it the clean way by raising your own standard and refusing to keep abandoning yourself. That's the kind of power that's yours to keep because it's built on your self-worth rather than on having the upper hand over someone else. So you don't need to gloat. You don't need to punish them. You don't need to make them grovel. The power isn't in making them suffer, it's in the fact that you no longer need anything from them. And that quiet self-sufficiency is worth more than any revenge could ever be. The scales tipped because you got whole. Stay whole, and the power stays yours no matter what they do next. And there's a deeper layer to justice that should give you peace. Justice is a karmic card. What's happening here isn't just a lucky swing in your favor, it's correct. It's the universe restoring something to its rightful order. For a while, things were out of alignment. You gave more than you received, valued someone more than they valued you. That imbalance was always going to correct itself. Because the universe doesn't let things stay lopsided forever. So you don't have to feel guilty about the power shifting to you. You don't have to soften it or apologize for it. This is simply what fairness looks like when it finally arrives. The truth is that you were always worth more than you were being treated, and the scales are just catching up to what was real all along. Comment the scales tipped if you can feel the power in this dynamic moving finally to where it should have been all along. To you. Let's pull our final card. Where you go from here, okay. Last card. And after everything, the shattered assumption, the tower moment, the panic spiral, the Queen of Swords clarity, the foundation they're scared to lose, the hot comeback, the shifted scales, let's find out where you are headed. Because this reading was never really about them. It was about you and what you've become. The card is the sun. The sun. After all of that, the cards close your reading with the brightest, most triumphant card in the entire deck. And I want you to really feel what that means, because it's not subtle. The sun is success, vitality, coming fully into your own power and standing in the light without apology. It's the card of a person who has stopped hiding, stopped shrinking, stopped dimming themselves to make others comfortable, and is now simply radiant, visible, undeniable, fully themselves. And here's why it's so perfect as the final card. This entire reading has been about a person finally seeing you, seeing the real you they've been too arrogant to notice. But the sun reveals the deeper truth. The reason they can finally see you is that you finally stepped into the light. They didn't suddenly develop better vision. You stopped hiding. You stopped playing small. You stopped contorting yourself into the manageable, palatable, take-me-for-granted able version that kept the peace. And the moment you stood up in your full height, in your full power, in your full self, they couldn't not see you. The sun didn't change them. The sun changed you. And that change is what they're reacting to. So here's where you go from here. Sweet, you keep standing in the sun. That's it. That's the whole instruction. You don't dim back down to make them comfortable now that they're scared. You don't shrink back into the old version to soothe their panic. You don't trade the power you earned for the temporary relief of giving them what they want. You stay exactly as bright as you've become, and you let everyone in your life, including this person, adjust to the fact that the small version of you is gone, and she's not coming back. Whether this person rises to meet the new you or fades out because they can't handle her either way, you win. Because the sun doesn't depend on anyone's reaction. It just shines. That's its whole power. It shines whether you're watching or not. And I want to leave you with the most important thing the sun has to say, because it reframes everything. This whole time we've been talking about them, their assumption, their panic, their scramble, but the sun reminds you that none of this was ever really about them. They were the witness to your transformation, not the cause of it. You didn't step into your power to scare them. You did it for you. The fact that it terrified someone is a consequence, not a goal. And that means your power isn't tethered to them at all. If they vanished tomorrow, never came back, never apologized, you'd still be standing in the sun. Because the sun was never about them seeing you. It was about you finally being willing to be seen. So the real headline of tonight isn't they're scared of you. It's you stopped hiding. And that victory belongs entirely to you. Don't hand the power back before I bring this all together. I need to have a real talk with you. Because this is the moment where a lot of powerful women accidentally give away everything they just earned. And I'd be failing you if I sent you off without this. Here's what happens. You go through all of this, you reclaim your power, the scales tip, they start to panic, and it feels amazing for about a week. And then something sneaky happens. Their panic, their sudden attention, their fear of losing you, it starts to feel addictively good. And before you know it, you're not standing in your power anymore. You're watching them, checking if they're still scared, monitoring whether the comeback is coming, refreshing your phone. And just like that, without noticing, you've handed the power right back. Because now your emotional state depends on their behavior again. The exact dynamic you just escaped quietly reassembles itself, dressed up as victory. I don't want that for you. So hear me. The power you reclaimed is only yours as long as you don't need anything from them, including the satisfaction of watching them suffer. The moment their panic becomes something you're tracking, something you need to see, you've reattached. You've made your peace depend on them again, just in a new flavor. Real power, the kind that lasts, isn't the rush of watching someone scramble. It's quieter. It's being so absorbed in your own life, your own growth, your own joy, that their realization about you barely registers as news. That's the destination. Not they're scared of me, and I love watching it. But they're scared of me, and honestly, I'm too busy living to pay much attention. So as you walk out of this reading, take the win and then turn back toward your own life. Don't camp out watching theirs. The most powerful thing you can do with this is receive it, smile, and pour all that reclaimed energy back into you, your goals, your peace, your people, your joy. Let them figure their fear out on their own time. You've got a life to live, and it's a good one, and it doesn't require their participation to be complete. That's how you keep the power. You keep it by not needing them to be scared. You keep it by being free. So let me pull this whole thing together for you, because I want you walking away holding your power with both hands. We opened with the reversed Page of Cups, the shattered assumption. The way they mistook your kindness for weakness and got lazy around a version of you that only existed in their head. The Tower showed the moment it crashed the instant you stopped performing the role they cast you in, and their comfortable certainty collapsed, taking their sense of control with it. The Seven of Cups crawled into their spinning head, where the fog is lifting on a person far more formidable than they assumed. The Queen of Swords revealed why you scare them, because you see everything. You always did, and they're realizing you were never fooled, just generous. And generosity has a limit they finally hit. The Ten of Pentacles exposed what they're afraid of, losing not just your attention, but your permanence. The security they built their future on, while forgetting to treat you like the ground they stood on. The Knight of Wands warned of the hot comeback and reminded you to measure the consistency after the gesture. Because wanting to keep you and actually valuing you are two different things. Justice confirmed the scales have tipped. The power is yours. Earn the clean way by getting whole, not cruel. And the sun closed it in triumphant light. They can finally see you because you finally stopped hiding. And your whole job from here is to stay that bright. So here's what I want you to carry out of this reading. And I want you to carry it like the crown it is. Someone underestimated you. They looked at the most beautiful things about you, your warmth, your patience, your generous heart, and they mistook them for weaknesses they could exploit. And they were wrong. They were so wrong that the realization is shaking them to their core right now. But here's the part I really need you to internalize. Their panic is not the point. Their fear is not your victory. The real victory, the thing this whole reading is actually celebrating, is that you finally stopped abandoning yourself. You finally valued you the way you should have all along. The fact that it scared the person who took you for granted is just a side effect. A satisfying one, sure, but a side effect. The main event is you, standing in your full power, finally refusing to be smaller than you are. And let me put one more frame around this, because it turns a one-time satisfaction into a permanent shift. What happened here isn't really about this one person. It's about a pattern you're breaking. For a long time, you may have been the kind of person things like this happen to the overlooked one, the taken for granted one, the one who gave more than she got and kept hoping the giving would be noticed. What you're doing now is graduating out of that entire pattern. You're becoming someone who values herself so completely that the people around her have to rise to it or fall away. And that doesn't just change this one connection, it changes every connection you'll have from here forward. And who's even capable of getting close to you. So this person's panic isn't the prize. The prize is that you'll never be this easy to underestimate again by anyone. That change is permanent, and it's yours. And no comeback or apology has anything to do with it. Now, because I will never hand you false power and walk away one thing. Holding this power well does not mean weaponizing it. The temptation, when you finally get the upper hand over someone who hurt you, is to use it to make them grovel, to punish them. Resist that. Not because they deserve mercy, but because you deserve to stay clean. The most powerful position isn't the one where you're making someone suffer. It's the one where you genuinely no longer need anything from them, where their panic doesn't excite you, and their approval no longer registers as something you require. That's real power. Indifference, not vengeance. So let them be scared. Let them scramble. You don't have to do anything about it. You just have to keep being the version of you that scared them in the first place, the whole one. The bright one. The one who finally knows exactly what she's worth. And one last thing to the part of you that might, in a quiet moment, feel a little sad about all this. Because that part deserves acknowledgement too. It's okay to grieve a little. Even while you're stepping into your power, there can be grief underneath it for the version of this connection you hoped for. For all the energy you poured into someone who didn't catch it. For the time it took to get here. That sadness doesn't make you weak. It just means you have a heart, which was never the problem. Power and grief can share the same room, and both eventually give way to something even better. The deep, settled peace of a woman who knows she'll never again abandon herself to be chosen by someone who couldn't see her. That peace is coming. The power is just the doorway to it. That's the reading, my loves. Bold and a little bit savage. And entirely deserved, because you are so much more than anyone who underestimated you ever bothered to see. If this lit a fire in you, if you felt that power move back into your hands where it belongs, if any part of this made you sit up a little straighter, drop a like on your way out. It genuinely helps these readings reach the people who need to be reminded of exactly how powerful they are. And subscribe to Elena Tarot if you haven't yet, because empowering, no-nonsense readings like this one are exactly my lane. And I've got so many more coming for you. Tell me in the comments which card hit hardest. Was it the shattered assumption? the tower moment they're reeling from, the Queen of Swords clarity, the sun you're standing in. I read every single one. And what you choose tells me exactly where you are in stepping into your power. And if you already know precisely who underestimated you, you don't even have to name them. Just drop one single flame. So I know you felt this all the way down. Thank you for being here with me tonight, and thank you for being brave enough to stop shrinking. The world doesn't always reward a woman for taking up her full space, but the right people will. And the wrong ones will be terrified. And honestly, let them be. You've got better things to do than make yourself smaller for people who couldn't see you when they had the chance. And hey, remember how I told you at the start that I almost didn't film today? That I was tired and busy and ready to push this to tomorrow? I'm so glad I didn't. Because if even one of you needed to hear tonight that you're not small, that you were never small, that the person who overlooked you made the mistake and not you, then every bit of that long day was worth it. That's why I do this. That's why I push through the tired nights and carve out the quiet pocket and sit with the deck until it talks. For this. For you. So thank you for making the late night worth it. Stand in your sun. I'll see you in the next one.